It's never a dull news day with the Donald in the White House, is it? I mean, President Donald Trump has just dropped yesterday. This happened yesterday. So today is Thursday, the 27th of March, 2025. And yesterday, Donald Trump dropped a bombshell that a 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars would be applied to those imported into the US. So every car imported into the US would be hit with a 25% tariff. And yes, that does include the UK. So much for the special relationship. And that actually includes 17% of our car exports. And that could be disastrous. And for the car industry and for our economy and for our jobs, and yes, even for car lovers like us, that's bad news. So what's actually going on? How bad is it really? Let me break it all down right after this.
A brown car guy. Brown car guy.
Right, so first things first, this isn't a rumor, this isn't a maybe, this is actually happening. It's official policy. It's starting on the 2nd of April, so it starts next week. This kicks in on Tuesday, I believe. All foreign-built cars entering the US will face a massive 25%, think of that, a quarter on top, 25% import tariff. Trump says that this is to bring car production back home. Make Detroit great again, or something like that, I suppose. Here's the thing. The US imported about 8 million cars last year, accounting for over $240 billion, about 186 billion pounds in trade, and roughly half of their overall sales. Now, ahead of this announcement, or they must have got wind of it, or they must have known what was happening, shares in General Motors slid about 3%, and Stellantis, the big group which includes Chrysler and Jeep, of course, their shares fell 3.6%. The car industry, of course, is already grappling with the expanded tariffs on steel and aluminium, which of course affects the entire car industry in some way or another. Now, this 25% tariff on all cars, this is a huge deal, and especially for us here in the UK, because guess what? The US isn't just one of our country's, our car industry's many export destinations. And for the UK, the US is actually the second largest car export market after the EU, and as a country, it's number one. So, that is incredible. That's according to the SMMT, Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders. The US was the top sales market for British-based brands such as Jaguar. Jaguar obviously is taking a hiatus, but Land Rover still exists. Range Rover, Land Rover is still there. And it exceeds, the US sales for those brands exceed the sales in the UK and in China. And I'm guessing the Middle East as well, because the Middle East, of course, is another big market for them. In 2023 alone, year before last, we exported over £5 billion worth of cars to the States. That's about 70% of all UK built cars. And that figure includes stuff like I said, Range Rovers, but also Aston Martins, Bentleys, etc., etc. Cars that, the top end that really people desire over in America. But now, with this tariff, suddenly those cars will effectively become 25% more expensive. A 2024 study by the US International Trade Commission predicted that a 25% tariff on imports would reduce imports by almost 75%, while increasing average prices in the US by about 5%. So average prices overall would increase by 5%, because 75% of that import market would be wiped out. That is a substantial problem. Now, you may be thinking, let's say you're a wealthy American and you want to buy a Range Rover autobiography, and before the tariff you're paying about $150,000, and after the tariff, say that pushes up to say about $188,000 or something like that. I mean, that's a big jump. Even for rich people, even for them, they'll be like, well, that Cadillac Escalade's starting to look pretty good right now. I mean, that's kind of what you're thinking, and that'll be even cheaper than the original base model price of the Range Rover, right? But the thing is, it's not just luxury cars. I mean, there are loads of other cars that are effective, the bread and butter everyday cars. Certainly things like the Minis, for example, huge market in America for the Minis. And I know people say it's a BMW brand, but it's still a British brand, and a substantial number of them are still built here. So what happens now? Car makers will start to reroute exports to other countries, or even probably have to, I guess, shift production to North America. But as I've said time and time again in previous videos, that sort of thing is easier said than done. It's not so easy to just pick up a factory in one place and put it in another. You have to build a factory, takes years, but then you have to build a huge supply chain around that factory. The huge infrastructure that a car factory requires is no easy task, and that takes a lot of investment and a lot of time. But of course, for us, if that happens, then the flailings, leftovers of a car industry, once glorious car industry that we still have, will also start to erode. And that, because essentially that will mean less production here, because we can't export the cars that we need to. And of course, what does that mean? That leads to fewer jobs because fewer factories. That means less investment in our industries here in the UK. And this is bad news, because don't forget, the automotive sector is actually still the biggest manufacturing export industry for us. It's one of the things that actually mean a lot to us. We do really well, and we do export these cars. Now, the really bad news is that all of this coincided, of course, with the bad news from the UK spring budget update, where we were told that our economic growth forecast has been halved. The Office for Budget Responsibility, OBR, reckons will now grow at just 1% next year rather than 2%, which is what they anticipated. And let's be honest, that is all without all of this stuff, this 25% stuff being factored in, this Trump tariff tsunami, if you like. So the OBR is already warning that we could lose, and because of this, the OBR says we could lose 0.6% of GDP growth by 2026. That's 18 billion pounds wiped out of our economy. And they've got to find that. The government will have to find that somehow, right? So that's either going to be more tax, or it's going to be austerity, more spending cuts, right? The austerity we were told that we weren't going to have. Austerity 2.0, or is it 3.0? I've lost track now. I think we've just been living in, permanent austerity as far as it feels like. And let's not forget everything else that's going on. High interest rates, stagnant wages. Of course, we've got energy bills, energy costs rising up. And now, a major part of our industry here falling to shreds, basically because of what's going on with the American president. Hey, before I carry on, make sure that you have hit like, and don't forget to share and subscribe. By the way, help out my channel by supporting me on Patreon and Ko-fi, or by taking out a subscription right here on YouTube. Or better still, buy my books. I've got 3 of them out now. There's 2 of them. Those are fiction. One is a novel. It's the novel that every petrolhead should read. It's called The Ulysses Files. It's about the war on motorists. And the other one is a collection of my short stories from over 2 decades. Everything from science fiction to cars to the state of humanity. And then this is my latest book. This is basically me putting my 35 years of experience and knowledge doing what I do into a book to help other people get into this game. So if you've ever thought about being a content creator, a journalist, or an influencer to do with cars, you need to get this book. It's out now on Amazon. Now, the EU, of course, is already planning retaliatory tariffs on America to the tune of $26 billion worth of American goods. Of course, we're not part of Europe, or EU if you like. So where does that leave us? Well, UK Chancellor Rachel Reeves said the new tariffs would be bad for the UK and bad for the US as well. This is what she said, adding that the UK was involved in extensive talks to avoid them being imposed in Britain. So, okay, we're still a few days away. There's still discussions going on, so maybe there will be a stay of execution order. We can only keep our fingers crossed. And you know what? It's possible, because like as I said at the top of this video, it's day by day things change. It's absolutely crazy. There's never been anything like it in history, I guess. So the UK government is going to try and negotiate, and they'll probably go to Trump and they'll say, oh, but we're allies and our special relationship and all that. Well, we'll see. I mean, fingers crossed. The fact is that he doesn't have to do any favors for us unless, obviously there's a win for him. And in fact, he has already threatened far larger tariffs if the European Union and Canada, of course, because that's the other one that he's picking a big fight with, if Europe and Canada get together and work together to try and do what he said is called economic harm to the US, he's going to put even larger tariffs on both Canada and the EU. That doesn't bode well for major manufacturers, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, and I mean, the major part of their market is, of course, America. So for Britain, the thing is like, okay, Britain can choose to try and make more cars in America, but then that still will affect jobs here. Or we can hope that Trump is going to change his mind when it comes to the UK because of our special relationship, and maybe because he wants to come and hang out with the king, maybe that's why. None of this is good news, of course, for our industry and factories that we have here in the UK. Now, this isn't just about a 25% price hike in terms of these cars when they hit America. It's also about the overall confidence, because, you know, if American buyers get weaned off imports, then it's bad news for the global car industry as a whole, because it will hurt it. And that will mean, just to be fair, in America, because we've seen this before historically when they had trade sanctions and stuff, the quality of American cars just went downhill because, you know, you get a monopoly and then you don't build better cars because you can sell any crap to the market because they have no choice. There are no imports, right? So they are going to suffer in terms of the quality of the cars that they're going to have. But, you know, that's up to them. But the reality is that also the rest of the market will suffer because of this imbalance in the global automotive trade scenario. If manufacturers decide the UK isn't worth the hassle, that hurts us. If our biggest export industry starts shrinking, that will hurt us. And all of this is happening when we are meant to be bouncing back according to the government. This is on the tail end of all of the disasters that we've had, Brexit, COVID, all the rest of it. This timing really sucks. And the consequences, you know, be assured, they could be massive. So let's see. You know, unless something changes, i.e. they do a deal with Trump, this is not good news for the car industry. And it comes right down to us, the consumer, even here in the UK, because there will ultimately be less choice for us because car factories will shut down. There will be less investment in the R&D. And the only thing that you'll be left to be able to buy will be Chinese cars. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The only people that these tariffs are going to help are the Chinese, who are doing very well on their own anyway. So this tariff is just oh great, this is extra bonus for us. So what do you think? Is Trump right to do what he's doing? Is there any hope for the UK? Can it negotiate its way out of this? How do you think that it will affect the British trade and the car scene in general? Put your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe on your way out. And I look forward to hearing from you on this, and I'll catch you all in the next video, which may be about Trump changing his mind. Who knows? Shout out time, guys. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoy my content, why not get involved? Buy me a coffee. You can do that at either of these links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, buy me a thanks or take out a membership. It all helps. It really does.